Hi, I'm Kassy, and this is the Spark Konnect, a podcast about what brings us to life: connection, creativity, courage, and the moments that spark real change. I'll be your host, bringing my experience as a speaker, consultant, and lifelong believer in showing up as your full self. In this series, Arts and Facilitation, you'll hear from inspiring voices, facilitators, trainers, speakers, and everyday humans who are also artists, lighting up the world in their own unique, creative ways. This is your space to reflect, reset, and reignite, because the spark is already in you. Let's light it up. You're about to meet Kevin Thorn, artist, instructional designer, storyteller, and one of my dearest mentors and friends. Kevin's journey has taken him from military life to founding Nugget Head Studios, where he fuses art, learning, and technology into experiences that help people see ideas, not just hear them. We talk about how creativity isn't a talent. It's a skill you can grow, the power of sketching to focus and reflect, and how even Lego bricks can build trust and collaboration. He shares how AI can inspire creativity instead of replacing it, and the story behind his community project, Drink and Draw, which brings people together to create, connect, and decompress. As Kevin says, I think in pictures, I think in color, and I have to say, he's helped me do the same. Kevin Thorn is in the house.
Hello.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to be here with you today, and I can't wait to learn what we're going to be talking about, all the art that you have brought into my life, the mentorship, so many cool things. Kevin, tell us who you are and what is your brand of artistry, my friend?
Oh my goodness, Kevin Thorn. Hi, everybody. I am owner-operator of Nugget Head Studios, which is a consultant, creative, instructional design, e-learning development, illustrator, comics, play. I mean, all things creative. In fact, my LinkedIn tag is, I solve problems at the intersection of creativity and play.
Oh yeah, you just go straight for it. You're not hiding it at all. You've always inspired me, and you've also been a mentor to me as well. I don't know if you meant to be that, but that's what happened. Guiding the way, encouraging me, and always just bringing creativity and fun to everything that you do. I remember seeing you did a keynote at one point. We were in Arizona many years ago. You were just drawing up on the screen, and I'm like, I'm at a learning and development conference and we are in art class right now. This is so cool. Would you say that you were an artist that found training, or are you a person who found training and then you became an artist?
I am an artist who became a trainer. I remember holding a pencil, drawing cartoons before I could write my own name. And then just like, we got to make a living. After high school, I tried the college thing for a little bit. Actually, I went to college early, right after high school, to be a graphic designer. And things weren't working out with school. And so I ended up joining the military and going off and doing the military thing. But even then, I would do some creative things in the military and paint murals and do different comic strips and different things like that. Just to it was more exhausting curiosity and keeping skill up, continuing to practice, if you will. Then when I got out of the military, went into corporate life, I was in IT and pretty much didn't do anything creative in IT. Well, I don't know, programming, I guess you can get kind of creative in that area. But then when I ended up in the training department and there's this e-learning and there's this visual presentation and this interaction design, and I discovered Flash. You remember that name?
Yeah, wow. Yeah.
And realized, oh my gosh, I can animate my cartoons.
Yeah.
So I started teaching myself how to flash and animating and doing things like that. And then just incorporated a lot of that type of visual art into e-learning and comics. And that's, I guess it was at that point, about 20 some odd years ago, that I realized that comics for adult learning, there's a thing here. And then I just pursued that when I started my own company and did some pretty significant instructional design, instructional comics projects. And then that led me to my doctoral research in comics for learning. And now
Wow.
it's comics and play.
So you start off with, you tried the college thing, and then you ended that moment, that story on, now I have a doctorate in comics and learning.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
incredible. Where do you think that comes from? When you said that, before you could write, you were drawing pictures. What is that? And like, how does that, do you have memories of what that was like why you would prefer to do that? Or I guess I'm trying to get at, where does that kind of stuff come from? It's so interesting. Is it just natural? People say people are
Yeah.
born with it.
Yeah. No, I think that's people talk about, well, you have so much talent. And I think it's a difference between talent and skill. I think the talent part is, well, let's put it this way. I believe creativity is a skill. I believe you can be taught how to be creative.
Okay.
Because I hear this all the time, well, I'm not creative. Yes, you
Yeah.
are. You just haven't been taught the principles and the foundations of what creativity is. And if you're listening to this and you're saying, well, I'm not creative, I want you to just do this exercise. Be observant. So look at your room or the area or your environment through a different lens. So, Kassy, I'll give you this example. Right? Look around your room real quick. Pick one item, pick one object around the room. Boom, you got it in your head? Now, tell a story from the perspective of that object. What does that object see right now? What does that object feel right now? What is that object, right? So now you're observing your environment from a different lens. And right now you're being creative. You don't even know you are, but your head is going off in a distance thinking, oh, wow, yeah, we could do that. We could do this, right? So
Yeah. Because
that's,
I looked at the Barbie that's over there,
yeah.
and
So,
she's observing me doing this podcast, and she's thinking how she could be better at it.
yeah, that's really the fundamentals. That's where you just, and then it's just practice, right?
Yeah. We were talking about that a little bit earlier. You said that you believe there's a difference between creativity and talent.
Skill and
Explain more
talent.
about that, or skill. Okay.
Yeah, skill and
Explain more
talent.
about
Well,
that,
yeah,
like
so
talent and skill. People say you're so talented. You have all the skills. Like, what are all these words that are floating around, and where does some of that come from?
part of it, I think I've always believed that. I think, yes, I think you're born with a certain innate ability to just naturally, instinctively know how to do something without being taught how to do it. And I believe that's what's considered talent. So if you think of an athlete or somebody that just understands the science of food to throw together a recipe, that
Yeah.
to me, that's a talent. But then with a talent, you're practicing, right? You're exploring, because that talent is what drives you to keep growing and keep learning and keep doing more and experimenting and doing different things. Well, that then enters practice, and continuous practice builds more skill. So I
Right.
think that's the difference between me, and it's just my own words, between talent and skill. And
Yeah. And
yes,
like
I
the
believe
and the journey to excellence, right? The journey
journey,
to
yeah, journey.
excellence is filled with practice and focus and repetition and feedback and growth and all of those things. But I remember when my kid was little, my nephew was born around the same time. They're just a few months apart. And my kid, we would say, wow, such an engineering mind. Like, examining the playground and how it was constructed was more interesting than playing in the playground for my kid. And my nephew had him a ball, and it was as if he was born to be an athlete. Like, it was so smooth. I found myself just cheering, like, kid, and to see, and I was doing the same for my own, like, yes, build, create, make sense of the world. And they both were so very different, and they were just doing it. There was no way any of us had ever influenced any of that on
Yeah,
purpose.
yeah.
And so it's like this thing that you do, I guess, for lack of a better word, just naturally could potentially be what you're talented at doing, right? Whether you choose to develop such things is a whole nother thing.
That's the key word. The choice to commit to that journey. So there's early on, I read an article 2011, 2012, which kind of inspired me to pursue terminal degree. There's an article called "I Can't Draw" by a Dr. Neil Cohn, who does research in comics, right? The mechanics of comics, the benefits, the cognitive benefits, and he just kind of hit me with a ton of bricks. Like, people, I can't draw because everybody drew when you're a kid. Everybody doodled, sketched, colored, played with pencils, pens, and colors and crayons and chalk on the sidewalk. We all did it growing up. So we all started there. But then at some point, and he says in his research, right around the age of 7, 8, 9 years old, we find new interests and we move away from drawing. So we might find music, or we might find athletics, or we might find some other interest that captures our attention, and then we stop practicing. Those who continue to pursue an artistic career in the areas of painting, drawing, doodling, things like that, that's their interest. And they continue that through those years. So by the time they're late teens in high school, they're looked at from their peers in high school. Oh, he's an artist, or he knows how to draw, or she's a painter. And it's like they just continue to practice when you went off to play softball, or when you went off to play the clarinet or join the band or whatever. And it hit me. That was my interest growing up. I came home from school and the first thing I wanted to do was start drawing.
Wow. Yeah, it was just there for you.
That was my after school activity. I would go find something to draw every day.
You went on to earn the doctorate later. So not during the prime years of your corporate life.
No,
Is that correct?
that's correct.
So before we get into, I'm really interested in what kind of things you did during the doctorate, what kind of classes and things, and how you focused there. But I want to come back to that because I'm interested first in the corporate life and sort of the development of Nugget Head Studios and the reaction to corporate throughout the years. Because how many years has Nugget Head Studios been in business?
14 years.
14 years. So in the beginning, what was the corporate response to, hey, I'm going to come in and teach your learning and development team and do instructional design? Like, tell me what you were teaching them and what they were doing and their response to it. Like, because I know you to be like, we can't wait to get you to come in and teach us, but I don't think it started that way. Am I right about that?
Yeah. No. It's like,
Yeah.
who is this guy? Well, I mean, just the journey, like for one, I'm medically retired from the military. So what does that mean? That means due to a medical condition, you're asked to leave your career. You're asked to end your career. That hit me faster, and it's like, oh my gosh, they don't want me anymore. So there was a year period of depression, I would say, because you come out of that world or that lifestyle, and then all of a sudden you're thrown back in. You didn't have really a lot of time to prepare to come back into civilian life.
Yeah. Kevin, I'm sorry that happened. Remind me which branch of the military?
Army.
Yes. I'm sorry. And thank you.
No, that was, I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
And then,
That's an important part of your life.
yeah,
And
it's,
story.
you have this bond, this brotherhood, this responsibility, this mission. You have all of that, right? And then you didn't prepare for the civilian life. So I didn't have a degree. I didn't have anything. So here I am pushing 40 years old and I got nothing. So I went to work retail, hourly wage, just to keep a roof over my head.
Mm.
And it was during that time, because I had, the GI Bill and you can go back to school after you got out. So I was like, well, I need to go back to school. And this was right at the end of the 90s. So if we think about, the tail end of the dot-com era, and we're going into this new millennium of technology and Y2K. Do you remember that, Y2K? Well, I was in retail, and this is kind of what sparked the interest to go and to get a degree. My undergrad is in IT. And my boss at the time says, hey, what do you do on New Year's Eve? I said, I have no plans. He says, do you mind being at the store and working the store? I said, what, until midnight? He's like, yeah, because Y2K was in 1999, right? Because we want to make sure, because if the store breaks, I want somebody there to, be able to open the store the next day kind of thing, make sure. I said, are you really worried about this going to break? He's like, yeah. So, midnight came, everything kicked over fine. There was no problem.
It was such a letdown, wasn't it?
Yeah, I was waiting for this to be, whatever.
I remember being at a party and like waiting. Is the world going to end?
Surprisingly, I had a Dr. Pepper and a cupcake. So that was my celebration that night. Anyway.
Wow, that's great.
I had gotten an offer to work, and that's how I ended up down in this Memphis area. The corporate office is in Memphis, and I got an offer to come work in the IT department at the call center. This is pre-undergrad degree, to work in the call center. And so I had made the offer and I accepted, and I come down here, and I got down here and I'm in the IT department, and they're still scrambling around, early 2000. And they're paying COBOL programmers. I don't know if you remember the COBOL program, but it's database programming. It's a deprecated language.
This would be why I don't remember it, but I do remember the word. It's like it's floating around, but I know nothing about it.
Well, that was the language that originally coded the database that had the 1999.
Okay.
And they were paying these programmers $200 and $300 an hour on a contract basis to come in and fix the database for this big retail company. And that kind of blew I said, "All right, I'm in the wrong line of business right here. I need to do what they're doing." So that inspired me to go get an IT degree.
I see.
That was that whole reason,
So
right?
Y2K inspired you.
Yeah, believe it or not.
That's interesting.
So, I don't know, 2 or 3 years later goes by. I'm working on a big project, network printers, network copiers and printers, building wide, and I'm working on it. Anyway, I connect with the training manager, and each department had a liaison to work with IT in order to reconsolidate all these network printers. And the training manager happened to be the liaison for that department. So he and I
So
started.
enter training into the scene,
Yeah.
you know? Mm.
So he and I got along really well. And he says, "Hey, we would really love for you to come work for us."
Telling you, I think training finds the artists.
Yeah, they
I
do,
think it
because they're always
does.
looking. And he's, "I've got an opening for a training analyst." And I said, "What is that?" He says, "Well, you have to run reports and Excel spreadsheet." I said, "Look, I go to sleep looking at a spreadsheet. That I'm not your guy for this, right?" He said, "No, no, no, I got this vision." And this is pre-LMS days, pre-e-learning, all of that, right? So the onboarding training at the time was a 3-ring binder, and that was your training. He says he picks up this binding, big 3-inch book, right? There was a library of these books on a shelf. And he says, "I want to take this and I want to digitize it and I want to put it on a website. And then I want to know who accessed the website." And basically, he was describing an LMS before we even knew what the word was, right? And I said, "Oh, that sounds pretty cool." He said, "Well, I want you to build it." I said, "What? I don't know how to do that." He said, "Don't worry about it. We got, carte blanche. You work directly for me. You have no direct reports. I'll send you to conferences and we just got to figure out how to do this." He said, that's, I said, okay, I'm game. So I took this job as an analyst and I had to do the spreadsheet reporting for a little while, about a year, till we mapped out how we were going to do this. And then I went to my very first conference in 2003, one of the ATD conferences. It was in Denver.
We
And
were probably walking by each other.
I don't, probably that's where I met a lot of the friends that we know now at that conference.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where it started. And that was 2003. And then we launched their first LMS in 2007. And then it was funny though, we had one course, we had one module, a course on
One
it.
module. Now, was it all words? Were there any opportunities for you to do any sketching?
Yeah, so that was where that whole art thing came in. There was the annual safety training was the compliance training. That was
The one course.
the
And of course,
one,
it's compliance. Of
yeah.
course, it is.
And the safety department came to us and said, "Hey, we've got this program that we have an outside person do for us, right?" And they did posters and they did these episodes like they would release every month about one particular safety thing. Driver safety training was one of, because they had a fleet drivers, outside drivers. And it was interesting. It's like, and I was looking at it and I was like, it was kind of like a hand drawn cartoon style. And I was looking at it. And I was like, yeah, I could do that. I was just, yeah,
Yeah.
I could do that. So we talked to him. I was like, "Can I ask how much are you paying this third party to do this annual?" It's like, "Well, it's 300,000." And all of us sitting at the table like dropped our draws, right?
300,000
300,000 a year
to make that manual.
to make this. They didn't. It was a digital e-learning thing, but it was on an external server, right? They were paying
Okay.
for the platform, the technology, the creation of it, the marketing, all of it, right? The whole package.
Yeah. Yeah.
And 300,000, I said, "Look, you give me 30,000 this weekend and I'll have this whole thing redone for you." That's ridiculous. There's no way. I mean, we can have that running internally. You can have all your own reports. I can do the artwork. We can run the posters and I can take like a tenth of a percent of what you're paying for them. Just send me home for the weekend and I'll take care of it. So they ended up letting that company go and we took that project over and that's the first one that launched. And we redrew everything and we re-stylized it. We redrafted and it was a great hit. It was a big hit.
Do you still have any of the drawings from that? Do you have any? Do you? Oh, I'd love to see them. Maybe we could like put it in the pictures somewhere in the show notes or something
It's
like
like
that.
in some time capsule hard drive somewhere.
Like one of the sketches or something. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Very
then
cool. Wow.
then we realized we have this massive LMS system in one course. So now what are we gonna do? Well, we need other departments. So that was a big lesson learned. We didn't market it. We didn't talk to other departments about what they wanted to do, and we didn't even have an e-learning development team to even support a demand like that. So that kind of like, well, we need an e-learning department. Do you wanna help put that together? So that's where we started taking existing people, instructional designers, and teaching them the e-learning development. Because most of the training department were facilitators, stand-up trainers.
Right.
They would
It's
travel
kind
out.
of been the history of L&D. You have people who know the answers, so make them the people who teach other people and just have them tell them what to do. And then instructional design comes along later to, oh, I see. We would be better at it if we knew what we were doing other than the answer to the question. It's kind of been at least that's been my experience being on the facilitator side.
Yeah, what's interesting, like going back to my military days, I was a trainer and I didn't even know it. Because in military, you're training all the time. You train every day and you're teaching and you're training and you're, always refining the training and all that. So then when I got into IT and the technical geeky stuff that I enjoy, and then the visual art style that I can do with e-learning, when I landed around 2009 sort of era, I was thinking, wow, this is my dream job. The geeky techie
Yeah.
stuff, the creative stuff. I didn't realize, but I've been a trainer my whole life. Like,
It's
so,
like the difficult things that we go through. Your story of, being forced into that change that I could sense from you wasn't something you wanted,
mhm.
is what was the launch for what the actual dream is.
Yeah.
And, you
And
hear
that's,
so many stories like that, but it's like, do I have to go through that level of pain to get to it? And yeah, I guess most of us do.
yeah. And it's odd because I'll tell my kids as they were growing up, sometimes you have to go in the opposite direction of your dream for a decade before you realize you don't ever let go of your dream, but you might have to take an alternate route for a little while to get back to the goal,
Yeah.
or.
As I listen to you too, I think like it's so interesting of all of the artists that I've spoken to thus far. Everyone is like this, but your particular story and what's happened is very interesting because I don't think that you're leading with it at all. You're also not putting it on the side in any way. It is just who you are. You just exist as an artist. You draw things and you sketch things. I'm so interested in, I've seen you present many times, and every single time I've ever seen you present, you are sketching on screen in front of us, whether it is online or in person. These are at least the sessions that I've taken from you. You are drawing, and we're drawing along with you. And we're learning through that. Like, I don't think I've ever seen you pull up a slide that's prepared. I think you pull up a space and you draw the visuals as you express the content to us. And it really is quite fascinating and highly effective.
Yeah, no, that's the cognitive benefits of, when you get those certain endorphins firing in your brain and you go into a deeper state of thinking, you go into a deeper state of focus. Um, it's the same with play. It's the same with creating. It's when you're thinking and using your hands. So even back, let's go back to COVID for a minute. When adult coloring became a thing during COVID, and I kind of chuckled. I'm thinking, yeah, adult coloring has been around for a while, and everybody's, "Oh, this is so therapeutic and it's so relaxing and it helps me not think about where the world is right now." And you would see all these people get, these massive viral little videos of this thing that they're doing. It's like, that's been around for like 100 years, and you're just now discovering it, which is great, and I'm excited for you. But the act of sketching, the act of coloring, the act of just doodling on a notepad, it doesn't matter. It's not about being an artist. It's not about the skill of drawing. It's about expressing yourself through something with your hands,
Oh,
and
yeah.
that causes things to just slow down, and then you focus.
You're reminding me of for like a minute when I was early in my university journey, I thought I might major in art history
Mhm.
because basically I didn't know what I wanted to major in, but I'm this creative person who will spend hours and hours looking at art and being among those that create it. But one key thing that one of my teachers taught me, one of the professors said, when we're going through this and you're trying to remember who did what and taking all the notes of all the different, types of art that we're going to be learning, draw a picture. Draw a picture. And I'm like, right, I'm going to try to draw the Mona Lisa. Like, who do you think I am? And he's like, do it. And so I do have notebooks from those years. And I to this day, I am not great at making it look wonderful, but people could look at it and be like, oh, right, look at her. She just sketched a version of the Mona Lisa. Very simple. But, it helps you. It helps me to this day remember things. And I will often do that before I'll take notes. Just draw a little picture of whatever I'm experiencing or whatever concept I want to remember, because I will remember that more thoroughly than I will words.
Like when I'm attending a talk or if I'm attending a meeting or something, I will often draw the whole time, my head's down. And I've getting accused before, even in corporate. It's like, Kevin, are you paying attention? It's like, you have no idea how much I'm paying attention.
Right.
Because when I'm drawing, I have intense focus.
Yeah.
Instead of being distracted with other facial expressions around the room or hand gestures that somebody might be doing as the speaker in a meeting. And that's just me. I mean, I'm not saying this is how everybody acts, but when I'm in a meeting and there's 10, 15 people around the table and somebody's talking and then somebody else talks and then you're turning and listening, you're turning, but you're distracted because somebody might be fiddling over here or somebody might be on their phone over there. But if I'm right here and I'm drawing and I'm listening to the whole conversation, and then I have every detail, I'm capturing every detail because my focus is more in tune with what's going on.
How does that play out when you facilitate? Like, how did you develop the skill to facilitate like you do, where you're actively sketching while you're teaching?
I don't know. Talent?
Talent, you were just
I
born
don't know.
like you said, when you were little, you were drawing pictures, not words. So it's just what you do. Like, what are some of the things you do? So rather than maybe explaining how, like, what are some of the things, like, explain it to those that are listening. What is it that you do while you're presenting? What is actually happening so that they can get a picture of it? Go figure.
A picture of it. Okay. So I think in pictures. I think in color. I think in visuals. I'm always associating everything in a way to, we have memory games. We're trying to remember a phone number or remember somebody's name. In my mind, I'm drawing that person as a caricature and I'm putting that person in a setting and I'm animating it in my head. So when I think of that person, there's this character, right? And I can see this visual. So when I'm teaching and I'm explaining something, I'm trying to explain it. You always heard that, explain it to me like a 5-year-old, like I'm a 5-year-old. You've heard that expression before, right? So in my mind, I know my audience comes from a varying degrees of experience and backgrounds, where I can talk at one level and everybody gets it, but it's over the head of everybody else and they don't get it. So in my mind, I'm visualizing what would it be like if everybody in the room is a 5-year-old. And I need to break it down to the fundamental architectural principles of what this concept means. And to do that, let's do it visually. Let's start with a line and then add a dot and then maybe a circle and then add a square. And then mash those together to form a concept that then explains what I'm trying to express. And
You know what
then
this
you
reminds
build
me
on
of? When I have a mentor, Michael Port, from some training that I did over the last couple of years. And he says, when you have, this is like acting and performing, when you have a telling problem, like people aren't getting it when you tell them, or maybe it's just not landing, perhaps you need to show them. And that training plays out in a physical show, like stepping onto the edge rather than describing how you walked up to the edge. Step to the edge of the stage.
performative
You don't
art,
need words.
performative
It's more
facilitating.
performative.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. It's like the picture rather than the word or the verbal,
Yeah.
rather than
Showing.
the written word or the spoken word.
I think that's exactly right. I think it's showing them while you're not just telling them, you're showing them at the same time in the form of sketching or doodling or
Do a lot of people think they cannot draw?
yeah, that goes back to that research. I can't draw. You can't draw because you were never taught how to draw.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. So why, I didn't want to assume that why do so many people think they can't draw, but it is true that many people think that they are unable to draw. And like, where does that come from? Why do we think we can't draw? Just because we've stopped trying?
Yeah, we stopped
Or
practice, but it's interesting. So you do know how to draw. Cassie, do you know how to write your name?
yes.
Then you're drawing.
Yeah.
So if you think about writing, let's go back to the history of writing. The Greek alphabet as we know it, the 26 characters, are symbols. And those symbols are made up of lines and arcs. So an A is two angled lines and a horizontal line. So you learn how to draw that angle and you learn how to draw a horizontal line and you learn how to draw a B with a vertical line and two arcs. So you're training your hand how to draw those lines to form a symbol. So we started with that practice. You remember that piece of paper that had the two bold lines and the little dotted line down the middle? Because that was your lowercase and your uppercase, right? And you practice writing the letter like 40,000 times, right? That's the practice, right? You practiced over and over and over and over again until you built the skill to automatically, when you hear the letter R, I was like, I know how to do that. So you don't have to think about it anymore, right? So that's skill and you developed it. Now, after that, you learn how to put those letters together to form words. C-A-T. I know how to draw a C. That's one big art. The letter A is 3 lines. The letter T is 2 lines. So you're learning how to put those symbols now together to form a word. Then after that, you learned your vocabulary. Then after that, you learn sentence structure and mash words together to make a sentence. Then you learn how to communicate. So if you take that same schematic structure and you apply it to drawing symbols or icons or visuals, like in the background right now, I see you have an old style rotary telephone, right? Could you draw that phone? What does that phone look like? If you can draw it out and it has that same schematic structure. So the visual alphabet is the same as the written alphabet in that it's dots, lines, circles, triangles, squares, shapes, right? That's the alphabet of the visual alphabet. Then it's just learning. You already know how to draw those. You can draw a triangle, you can draw a square, because that you learn that when you learn how to draw the alphabet. Now you draw these separately, and if I put a triangle on top of a square, it could be a house.
Yeah. I mean, it's making it seem very, very accessible in that way. But here's a sort of um, thought that's making me a little bit nervous. That's coming forward right now. I know that you said you're not focusing on AI, but I think of artists, I think of painters, you know, you have a very unique style. I know it's yours when I've seen it. I'm like, that's Kevin Thorn. I've been in meetings with clients and somebody will come through. I'm like, Kevin Thorn drew that. They're like, how'd you know that? I can tell. It's unique to you. So what you've just described sounds like it's a process, but then where does which AI could pick up and run with and has, but yet it's not working out to be unique and beautiful and all the beautiful human things that are coming into the art, the very specific artistic expression that we get from only one person, you know, only that person can do that. The rest of it's a copy. So
So I
yeah,
think what you're referring to is style, right? That's your
maybe, yeah,
personal
help me
style.
out here. What just came out of my mouth?
No, I totally know what came up. AI, I'm on the camp because an artist. I'm on the camp to protect artistic expression and not for AI to take my style and reproduce it in other ways, right? I use AI daily, just like everybody else, right? I get inspiration, I get ideas. I'll use AI to generate images to give me an inspirational jump start if I'm
Okay,
stuck.
cool. Yeah, it's such an excellent tool for so many things, and it's
Yeah.
certainly transformed my work too. Like in the writing and just helping me become more confident. Like this is a little side note. Like I've always struggled to write my bio, but
I know.
now I'm
I don't
like,
like writing about
listen,
myself.
just write the bio like this, and I'll get all these different versions, and then I'm having fun, and then I'm like, I can do this. I can do this. You know, let's find a real one that works for me. But if I just get like a really funny one, write my bio as if I'm Barbie, you know, like I'm not going to use that, but it does something that helps me gain some confidence to be able to really go with what I need to do, right? But anyway, so let's get back to that. Yes.
Yeah, no, so style, you nailed it right there when you were talking about your writing style. So think of, like you said, just like, oh, I know Kevin's art style. I've seen that. Did Kevin draw that? It's like, yeah, I know his style. And if you think of an author, You can pick up a book and start reading a book and not know who the author is, but you know that author's style. It's like, oh, I know Stephen King wrote that book. That's Stephen King because I know his style of writing. If you read Stephen King, but James Patterson or whoever, right? So we all have a writing style, and you have a speaking style, you have a facilitator style, and we all learned how to talk and perform. And then our genetic makeup, whether we're an introvert, extrovert, class clown, whatever it is, that's our outgoing style, right?
The three iconic types:
Right,
introvert, extrovert, and class clown.
right, right. So So going back to that schematic structure, that's the fundamental principles of how to learn the skill of drawing. And then you practice that till you start forming those expressions. And then through that, you start bending a line or you start curving over something that wasn't necessarily that way before. And you start expressing that curiosity, and then that becomes your style.
It's very interesting. So words like expression, curiosity, style, passion, these are the words that are not coming from AI.
And
They're
never will.
coming from our humanity.
That's right. That's
And
right.
they're going to be revealed differently per human being based on the sum of their life experiences, right?
Not to digress, but my wife, Tammy and I were in a conversation the other day, and she goes, "Hey, the robots are coming. The AI is going to take over. They're going to take all our jobs." As I go, oh my gosh, you're on the camp like that? No, that is not what's going to happen. Well, how do you know that? I said, well, you may remember, there was a time not too long ago, there were telephone operators. That job no longer exists, but a whole bunch of new jobs were created.
Mrs. Maisel had that job for a minute, didn't she?
Yeah. And then there was some might remember the carburetor on a internal combustion engine, and there were carburetor repair people. There are no longer that, though that's a rare person now, right? So that technology will always replace jobs. AI is going to replace some jobs, but not all of them. And AI is going to create an exponential wealth of new jobs coming forward. And when I was 5 years old, what I'm doing now did not exist when I was five
Yeah,
years old.
same. That's such
So,
a positive, forward-thinking, hopeful
for
outlook.
sure, yeah, our
Love
grandsons
that.
right now, when they grow up, whatever they end up doing, I can almost guarantee whatever they end up doing does not exist today.
That's right. I love that. I love that. It's like recently I've been talking to a lot of people in my keynote about we no longer have to recreate what we were doing in person when we meet online using technology. We no longer need to recreate it. Also, we no longer need to replace it. We're not in the times where the only thing we can do is be online. So what would happen if we stopped trying to recreate what it's like to be in person? What happens if we get rid of worrying about having to replace what it's like when we're in person? And we got rid of both of those things and we started looking forward and let's say revealed what is possible because we don't even know yet.
And,
Now we just have all these options available to us. And it's the same sentiment that you're speaking of.
it's funny. We have a tricorder now, right? From Star Trek,
We do.
right?
And that
And
used to be just, yeah,
I can talk on my wristwatch. I mean, I remember it, when I was a kid, and it's like playing around with a wristwatch, like, come in, Kassy, let's go.
exactly. It was just
Like,
a joke.
and the technology's here. So there are app developers I mean, the iPhone just came out in 2007. That's not that long ago.
It's amazing. And like we can't predict what's coming, but we can make space or room for it by adjusting our mindset and being open to the changes that are
Well,
coming.
one of the things with AI has got me reflecting on all of this too is analog or human connection or learning how to do things without technology. It's kind of re-sparked my interest to go back to my drink and draw sessions, lifting up my Lego Serious Play facilitation a little bit more and doing things more on an in-person analog human way instead of chasing the technology. And it's just, I mean, I get, it might just be where I am in my career. And like I said, I play with it every day. I'm still very geeky, very technical.
Well, I think it's become more integrated as part of our just normal life. It doesn't have to be something special and different. So you mentioned drink and draw. And I love that. I've seen you do that before, and you were talking about maybe relaunching that, and I just want to put it out there in the world. Yes, please relaunch that. Tell us briefly about Drink and Draw
Uh,
and
yeah.
what that is going to be that we'll all be able to be part of soon enough.
Drink and draw, it's depending on whether or not I do it like, your morning before you kick off your day, like early coffee and drawing, or if it's in the evening to kind of decompress at night with your favorite adult beverage, drink and draw. I don't know, maybe one or both, but and then it's just basically what I was saying, just little tips and techniques on how to express yourself, and how to draw.
I love the coffee idea, actually. I just love sitting down and being like, okay, this is going to be a quick thing. We're going to learn to draw something. I'm going to bring the coffee or the tea or whatever.
Yeah,
I think
that's
this would
it.
be wildly popular, and I think we'd all really enjoy
Yeah, just
checking that
different.
out.
I just kind of share just basic fundamental concepts of different things, just 30 minutes, hour tops kind of thing.
Shoot,
Yeah, so
Kevin, you could even probably go at 15 minutes and like a less of a commitment even for you, and then grow it into something more. I can't wait till you do this again. Yeah. Love it. Well, also tell us about your Lego Serious Play. So also, busy earning a doctorate, running Nugget Head Studios, and then no big deal. Let's open up a Lego Serious Play store as well.
well, it's a bricks and minifigs franchise store.
Okay, bricks and minifigs. Lego Serious Play is what you're certified in,
Yeah,
which is
Lego
maybe
Serious
what led
Play
to let me get the
is
store going.
a thinking communication methodology, application techniques, and it's designed. Lego Serious Play uses Lego,
Yes.
but you use Lego to answer questions in 3D metaphorical ways. So you build the answer to a question, but it's really difficult questions sometimes because if I were to ask you a simple question and it's like, oh yeah, you can tell me. But if I were to ask you, what does trust look like?
Yeah.
Now that's a little, now you're into a deeper thinking mode, right? So now you have to build a little model on what you think your perception of trust looks like.
Oh, that's
And
so
if I
cool.
put your team in the same room and I ask you all the same question, your entire team will all have different perceptions of what that same answer looks like. And then now as a team, as a collective, collaborative, you're like, oh my gosh, I had no idea you thought that way. Or, oh my gosh, that's a great idea. I had no idea. Because listening to somebody answer, you're not necessarily checked into everybody in the room a lot of times in those types of environments. So when everybody's engaged and everybody's building and everybody's responding and everybody's sharing, the enormous benefits that come out of an activity like that are just still dumbfound me on some of what gets exposed, if you
That's
will.
so interesting to me. Yeah, I immediately had an idea of what I would maybe start to build or try to.
Yeah.
And a lot of times at the end of the podcast like this, I'll ask the guest to teach us something. And I feel like you just did. Like, how would you build the concept of trust?
But what does it look like?
What does it look like? Yeah. And if
Or
you're to draw it, like in the case of Lego, you're putting it together. But even like, how would you draw trust?
yeah, what does that look like?
What does that look
And
like?
a lot of times, one of the things is it's like, well, I can't do. Oh my gosh, and then they get overwhelmed with the activity. And my encouragement is, don't have a meeting with yourself. Get out of the way of yourself and just start thinking with your hands. And the answer lies in the Lego brick. The answer will reveal itself as you start thinking with your hands. And then that'll spark those little electrodes in your head. And next thing you know, in 2 minutes later, you have an answer and you're like, oh, wow, I did that. Oh
I
my
did
God.
that. Don't have a meeting with yourself.
That's right.
Just do it.
Just do it.
And this would work even if you're doing that example was with Lego bricks, but it would work if you were just drawing. Don't have a meeting with yourself. Kevin, that is highly inspiring. I love that. Where can people connect with you?
LinkedIn is probably the best place. Just search my name. I'm out there.
We'll make sure to put it in the show notes and get more people
Or
going your way and see all the creative things that you're doing. And if you're in the area, you live in, tell them exactly what city your Bricks and Minifigs location
yeah,
is.
we're in Hernando, Mississippi, which is North Mississippi. About, sometimes it's a tri-state area, the Memphis metro. So we're like a suburbial suburb in a different state, but it's a little rural town about 20 miles south of Memphis, and our Bricks and Minifig store is there. So if you just want to come in and hang out and play Lego, Wide
I'll be there
open.
one day. And also, it's a special week. This particular week, you've got some Elvis minifigs. I'm going to see if I can get a hold of one of those via shipping.
I can get you one. You want me to get you one?
100% I need an Elvis minifig. Are you kidding me?
Because of his little guitar?
Look at it. The hair is everything. Thank you so much for being my guest today. It has just been nothing but joy and creativity. And I feel like I want to go draw some things this afternoon. Thank you. That's your spark. Now go light something up. And hey, if this episode lit you up, share it with a friend, a fellow facilitator, or someone who needs a little more connection in their day. Be sure to follow the Spark Konnect so you don't miss what's next. We've got more brilliant voices, bold ideas, and heart-forward conversations coming your way. Until then, stay curious, stay brave, and keep showing up.